Olá, bem-vindos a mais um vídeo da Hora Suave, continuando o nosso papo sobre Endless Winter com Ron Marz e Andy Lanning, né? Lembrando que a primeira parte a gente teve um problema técnico, então a gente continuou essa segunda parte, mas tem muito papo, a gente também vai ter uma última parte mais pra frente. Então confere aí um pouco do papo que a gente bateu. Andy was talking about how to deal with 9 issues in 1 month. And that leads me to the third question. When you see like these sagas or events, okay, Endless Winter will be a 6-issue mini, and you have like Superman tie-in, Batman tie-in, Justice League, Green Lantern, and then it becomes something so huge that if you don't deliver something that is great, people usually get bummed out, like, oh, I expected more. But with Endless Winter, I think you found the perfect formula, because it was all in just 1 month. We read from part 1 to 9 without any, oh, I have to read this other part that is not quite the story, but it complements it. For you, you prefer to do a saga like that, or if it was like, you know, Blackest Night with all the tie-ins and all these things, you would prefer it?
I think Ron will agree with this. So it's so much better to be able to tell the whole story. That was the really cool hooks with this, and the thing that really appealed to us, and why we said we'd take on doing all 9 issues as well.
Yeah, it was enough for us to get our arms around. You know, if it had been 12 or 15 issues or something like that, I don't think we could have, within the time frame that we had, I don't think we could have probably gotten the whole thing done all on our own. But for the size of it, and it was ultimately, just a little over 200 pages, we could kind of do the whole thing ourselves and maintain the through line of the story. And, the more moving parts you have to a project, the more things that can go wrong, the more logistics you have to figure out. So and certainly I've, been part of those kind of big events like Blackest Night and any of the crossovers that I've been a part of, I think it's a little easier to bring in different artists to draw different things, as long as you're making sure that everybody's got the right reference, than it is to bring in different writers. I think logistically easier to have one team, one writing team come in and kind of handle everything. So this ultimately turned out to be a perfect opportunity for us to come in and be able to tell the thing from beginning to middle to end, kind of make sure that all of the seeds we planted at the beginning got paid off by the end.
And you said about working with different artists. How was for you guys to see the things that you created with so different artists? Because you had Howard Potter, you had like 5, 6 maybe different artists during the whole saga. So you saw like Wonder Woman and Flash and Batman all different in every issue. How was for you the dynamic to seeing your work like for different artists?
So it's actually, if we do the sums right, I think it's 11 different artists. Yeah, Howard did the first Endless Winter special, and then Howard and Carmine, is that how we pronounce his name?
Carmine, yeah.
Carmine did Endless Winter 2, and we had Marco doing the flashback stuff, and then the 7 issues in between. So if my math is correct, I think it's 8, 9. Yeah. No, maybe it's 10. Maybe it's 10. Math, never my strong point. But the wonderful thing, and I think we mentioned previously that we worked plot script style. So what was brilliant was getting that art back, to have that look at it, to do the scripting apart from anything else. But when the artwork starts to come in, it gives you a jolt of excitement about the whole thing all over again. And getting to work with those artists, particularly Howard, I must say, because of both Ron and I, big fans of Howard's work from his initial Grant Morrison run on JLA. But then some other artists who we haven't worked with before, like Miguel on Aquaman, and Carmine with Howard as well. And getting to work with Phil Hester on Superman, it's like, it's just wonderful. It's wonderful seeing all those interpretations. They're all really, really good.
Yeah, for us, it was a really nice mix of artists. Some guys we've worked with before, some guys that were completely new to us. I mean, I've known Howard Porter for 25 years. And we've never worked together. The chance actually finally to get to work with Howard and to give him a big JLA story, very much sort of visually inspired by the kind of stuff he did with Grant on their seminal JLA run. I mean, that's why in the first issue, when all of the characters, when the various and sundry members of the Justice League appear and their logos appear with them on the page, I mean, we took that right from from the Howard and Grant run on JLA. I mean, we wanted to sort of pay homage to that. Yeah, it was a cool mix. It was, people that whose work I had just seen in comics, and people like Howard, like Phil Hester, that I've been friends with for 20 years, Brandon Peterson, who I worked with at CrossGen. I mean, our offices were literally 2 doors down from each other in the studio complex, working with Brandon again after, like 15 years. And he did just a brilliant issue on the Black Adam special. The whole thing was great. And just the daily drip of pages coming in from all the artists, that really is the best part of the job as a comic book writer. It's when the art comes and the stuff that was in your head is now made real on the page, and usually better than you envisioned it in your head. It just juices you up to keep going. And having the art show up like virtually every day for 2 or 3 months really helped the process.
And a call out to that, what Ron was saying about stuff that you visualized, having it turn up. The Justice League Dark that Ammon K drew. There's a spread in that where they're standing basically on the Swamp Thing's head. He's like a lake, which was again a sort of homage to an image from the Alan Moore, Steve Bissett Swamp Thing. When we knew what we wanted, I actually sent Ammon K the page, and when that came back, it was like, oh, this is so good, just to get to, because it was exactly how we saw it in our heads, which is grand.
Yeah, because the real truth is, every time something looks really good on the page in a comic, the writers get credit for it.
It also means we put less dialogue on it because you don't want to cover up the picture.
Yeah, we don't deserve the credit for it, but we get the credit for it.
And talking about art, one of the first things I noticed when DC started announcing the saga Endless Winter, it was the visual from Batman, with the jacket and all those things. I think it was Miguel Hanin who did it, right? And it was your idea, or DC showed up and said, okay, we need a new outfit for Batman because Batman sells and we had to do it, because we talked in the first part how it is a family story. And Batman, for the most part, he doesn't quite have this family interaction, He had Damian and all the Bat family, but a few writers work with that. They prefer to do his like a lone wolf. How was it for you guys?
DC just had those designed up. They had Mikkel design those up, and they just kind of showed up one day like, oh, here's some costumes that we want to use in the story. And we're like, oh, these are the coolest things ever. I don't think we even knew they were being done. I know they had a few designs for the Frost King done. So obviously we knew what that was going to, we had talked about what that was going to look like. But I think the Wonder Woman and Batman costumes kind of came out of left field. And then especially the Wonder Woman costume ends up becoming like it turned into a story point. It turned into a bit that we used in the story as something between Wonder Woman and her mother, Hippolyta. And the fact that Wonder Woman winds up in that costume at the end of this story. I mean, to me, that's one of the examples of how these projects evolve and just sort of organically go to places that you didn't expect. I mean, we didn't come into this expecting Wonder Woman to have a new costume to be worn in this story or for it to be a story element. But, a lot of times when you do a story with this kind of scope, you end up pulling in a lot of different puzzle pieces. And a lot of different aspects that you didn't start with at the beginning of it, sort of end up filtering through the story. And to me, that's the fun part. That's the part where you just you take all of these disparate things and you figure out how to stitch them together into a story.
But that's also another Hippolyta Wonder Woman costume element. There was another thing where having that thematic link. As the North Star, as we mentioned before, really helped, because not only does it become a family matter between the pair of them, it's also, as we were saying, the idea of things from the past coming to haunt you in the present, things that regrets, things you could have done differently, is exactly what underpins why Hippolyta gives her the armor. She hasn't felt worthy enough to wear that armor, that gift that she was given, because she had the guilt about what her role was in the way they defeated the Frost King in the Viking era, which again was another element of it that we haven't really talked about that much since I think we did the first interview on this one, Ron, is the Viking, Justice League Viking, which we love, by the way. We just love that notion and would love to tell more stories about. They approached their problem as warriors, which is, it with the closed fist. And you offset that against the way that the Justice League of today approach their problems. Even though that, there's obviously a lot of punchy fighting, they actually the resolution isn't to defeat the Frost King, it's actually to understand and help him. So that juxtaposition between acting like warriors and acting like guardians and protectors, which again was born, I think, from the time that we were in, because a lot of the Black Lives Matter stuff was going down while we were writing this, and the role of the police, especially in the States, was being questioned. And, they're meant to be guardians. And if you're a guardian, how do you approach your problems then? And so it all gets woven in there. It's like it just sort of seeps its way in. And like I said, when you find that theme, you then go back and really, amplify it.
We tease it out, and I think sometimes you end up teasing it out and you don't even know you're doing it. And then you find ways. I mean, at least I look back at some of the stuff and realize, oh yeah, that, like we didn't know we were doing that, but I guess we were doing that on purpose. Even some of the dialogue bits, like I look back and go, I didn't know that I was like leaving trails for future issues and stuff like that. But that's part of I guess really the magic of the process. And sometimes, you don't look that gift horse in the mouth. That stuff just happens, and you're thrilled when it does.
Andy talked before about the scene where Swamp Thing is kind of a lake and how pretty it was. So is there any moment that you looked and said, boy, did we nailed it? Like when I saw the giant Viking Swamp Thing, I was, okay, this is awesome.
When we were talking about this and talking about ice giants, we weren't actually thinking the Frost King himself would become an ice giant. That evolved during the story, didn't it, Ron? And it was like, yeah. But we always said it'll be so cool to have a giant Swamp Thing, didn't we? It's like,
yeah, we were like, credit where it's due. We wanted a giant Swamp Thing to come back at the end because of Justice League Dark being part of the story. And then I think we got on a call with Ram V, and he's the one who said, well, maybe the Viking Prince spirit can go into the Swamp Thing, and you end up with a Viking Swamp Thing. Because obviously Justice League Dark had been Ram's book, and he stepped aside graciously to let us take over the issue. So we got on a call with him just to make sure we were dotting our I's and crossing our T's. So yeah, I mean, all credit to him. And then we wind up with these amazing visuals in the last issue of, a giant Viking Swamp Thing fighting a giant Norse Frost King. I mean, frankly, the last issue could have been like 80 pages and we wouldn't have had enough, because there was just so much cool stuff to get in there. I mean, I would have been happy to do a giant Viking Swamp Thing fighting a giant Frost King miniseries for like 80 pages. Just the two of them fighting each other.
Chegamos ao fim da nossa segunda parte, espero que vocês tenham gostado. Em breve a gente vai ter aí a última parte, né? Um papo muito bacana que a gente bateu, deu para desenvolver em 3 vídeos, então confere aí. E não se esqueça, deixar aquele like, compartilhar com todos os amigos, ativar o sininho, que aí quando sair vídeo novo você sabe quando sai, e até a próxima.